You're watching the Slice Tower Hamlets election coverage ahead of the general election on the 4th of July. Freddie Downing is the Conservative Party parliamentary candidate for Poplar and Limehouse, and he joins us now. Freddie Downing, why are you running for office, and what do you recognise to be the most pertinent issues facing Poplar and Limehouse?
So the reason why I put myself forward to be the Conservative candidate for Poplar and Limehouse is that I think Poplar and Limehouse is an absolutely amazing area. I've got to know it very well over the last year or so. I recently stood for City and East in the London Assembly elections. So if you think of everything that Poplar and Limehouse has going for it, sort of Canary Wharf, a global financial services hub, and then you go to Wapping and all those lovely pubs, Prospect of Whitby, Captain Kidd, or you go to Island Gardens and you see the fantastic views of Greenwich and the river. It's such a wonderful place, and really what I want to do over the campaign is to show how we can make it an even better place to live, work and visit. So for the last year, I've been pressing the Mayor of London to reopen Limehouse Police Station, because actually having just one police station for the whole of Tower Hamlets, which has more than 300,000 people in it, it's one of the fastest growing boroughs, one police station isn't good enough. We need to reopen Limehouse Police Station because actually we need a physical police presence in our community so we can get more police officers back on the streets. I've also been leading the local campaign to axe Sadiq Khan's tunnel tax. So he wants to charge drivers to use the Blackwall Tunnel. Now the Blackwall Tunnel is a vital river crossing. It's been free to use since 1897, so for more than a century, and I think it should stay free. And to date, more than 1,800 people have signed my petition calling for Sadiq Khan to rethink his plans on the Blackwall Tunnel. But above all, what I think Poplar and Limehouse needs is a champion. Someone who will champion the area and somebody who will champion the people who live there. And somebody said to me recently that you have done more over the last year for Poplar and Limehouse than Apsana has done over 5 years as being a Member of Parliament. So that's my priority, being a local champion.
And you say you want to champion residents in Poplar and Limehouse. One issue that a lot of people are very worried about is housing. Housing is a major issue across Tower Hamlets, and currently there are over 23,000 people on the housing waiting list. If elected, what would the Conservatives do to address this enormous figure?
So housing is absolutely a major issue, and it's not just a major issue in Poplar and Limehouse and Tower Hamlets, but it's an issue across the country. And you may have seen that when the Prime Minister unveiled the manifesto last week that he committed, and this is a big commitment, to 1.6 million new homes. So the answer is very simply, we have to build more homes, but they have to be the right kind of homes. I think people are getting tired of the high-rise blocks, 15, 16 stories high. What I want to see is low-rise blocks. I go around Poplar and Limehouse and we have some of the best housing around there, because it's the blocks that were built sort of in the interwar period and the immediate post-war period, and they are solidly built. They are good homes, they're good spacious homes, they're good quality homes, and that's what we need to see more of. And it needs to be a mix of homes. So it needs to be sort of flats for one or two people, but also family homes, so we can actually start building or rebuilding some of the sense of community that, unfortunately, that it does seem like we've lost, particularly when you have those high-rise blocks. But it's not just, I would say, about more. One more point is that it's not just about more housing, it's about better housing. So I go around Poplar and Limehouse, I speak to local people, I go into their homes, and some of the conditions that people are living in are not acceptable. I see damp, I see mould, and really, that's not okay. That's not all right. And it's for the local MP to be, people need to feel that they can talk to their MP and that the MP will be an advocate for them to improve the housing that they live in.
And one point in the Tory manifesto is that there'd be a new test for social housing, meaning individuals will have to prove both a local connection and a UK connection to qualify. Who will this new eligibility criteria exclude?
Well, I think you've just answered your own question with the criteria. So it is important, actually. I get this all around wherever I go, that you see people moving from outside the area to take homes, even though there are people living in the area with links to the community who need housing there. So I think it's absolutely right that you prioritise local people for local housing. Otherwise, if you're forcing people to leave the area, you're breaking down those community links that I just spoke about. And actually, community is so, so important, whether you're talking about um, just fostering a sense of linkage between people, but also when it comes to wider issues like poverty and crime.
Turning to healthcare now, the waiting list for hospital treatments currently stands at 7.5 million people. If elected again, what will the Conservatives do to cut this figure?
So I think it's really important because people often forget this, that we are investing a record amount already in our National Health Service, about £165 billion for 2024-2025. So it has gone up massively in real terms since 2010. We're putting a lot more money into the health service, which is absolutely right. You may have seen that last year the government unveiled the workforce plan. So it's actually thinking about the long term in terms of recruiting more doctors, more nurses, more healthcare professionals, which is what we need if we want to see more people being treated. But it's also taking a more innovative approach to healthcare. So you may have heard the Prime Minister talk last week, committing to even more community diagnostic hubs. So that's about actually speeding up the diagnosis process. So taking the pressure off some of the GPs and the secondary healthcare providers so that more people can be seen and can get treated. We've also had the Pharmacy First plan, so actually certain treatments where you no longer have to get a prescription from the doctor, you can go straight to the pharmacy, so it's freeing up more appointments. So there's a clear plan in place and there's the investment to back it up as well.
In the manifesto, the party has said that it will save 12 billion a year by reforming welfare payments. What will this mean for people in Tower Hamlets claiming disability benefits?
So in that sense, I mean, you'd have to look at the individual circumstances, wouldn't you? I mean, you couldn't make a sweeping generalisation about one thing impacting the other. I think what the Prime Minister has set out, and he's absolutely right to have done so, is that we should always be encouraging people to work where they're able to do so, and where they're not able to do so, then we will support them. But we can't have a situation where people are able to work and are able to contribute to our economy but are refusing to do so or are choosing not to do so. So it's a case of supporting those who need it, but also supporting those who can work back into work.
Freddie Downing, you are a member of the LGBT plus Conservatives, and East London has long been a welcoming space for the LGBTQ plus community. The government's position on trans issues has throughout time kind of polarised voters and the country. How would you hope the next government approaches trans issues?
Well, I think this is it. You're absolutely right. It has been such a divisive debate, and we spend so much time talking about it, don't we? Indeed, I think in a sense we spend almost too much time talking about these issues. For me, it's a case of common sense, right? A common sense approach. That actually what we need to do is we need to make sure that safe spaces are protected and people feel safe in those areas. We need to have a sensible approach, for example, when it comes to participation in certain sports. We need to have a conversation about, well, what is the appropriate terminology? I think people probably do find it strange. You know, there was recent health guidance that struck off references to pregnant mothers, which I think most people would consider to be strange. So we have to have a conversation about terminology. And it's also about actually, well, what is our approach with young people? So the Cass review recently came out, and a lot of people I think would have been shocked with the findings within that report. So we spend a lot of time talking about it. It's right that we talk about it, but what we do need to do, you're absolutely right, is tone down some of the rhetoric because it has been very divisive. We need to have a grown-up discussion, and I think we need to take a common sense approach to a lot of these issues. And I think there is a common ground there that we
and kind of speaking more about this issue, the Conservatives said that if elected, they'd make changes to the Equality Act, allowing organisations to bar transgender women from single-sex spaces, including hospital wards and sports events. What do you make of this policy?
So I think it's really important to remember that the Equality Act already allows for the protection of safe spaces like changing rooms. So that is already in law. Um, what the government is talking about is clarifying the existing framework. And I actually have no issue with that because I think it's really important that women do feel safe in those spaces. What I'm talking about, though, primarily is about toning down the rhetoric and having a grown up discussion. We have a lot of sort of very divisive language, particularly on social media, that doesn't advance the conversation on this. We need to sit down and actually, as I said, I think there is a common ground here where you're saying, you know, let people be who they want to be, but let's make sure that isn't encroaching on how other people are feeling in terms of their safety either.
Turning to immigration before we wrap up, Sunak has promised bold action to reduce immigration if elected on the 4th of July. Why is this such a priority of the party, and what new measures would a Tory government put in place?
Well, I don't think it's just a priority of the party. I think knock on doors throughout East London in Poplar and Limehouse, and it's a priority for people too. People are fed up, particularly with illegal immigration, people coming here on the boats, and they want to see a government take actions. And that's why it's such a dominant issue, has been for several months, continues to be so. It's why the government has taken all the action that it has done. We talk about the Rwanda scheme, but I think it's also important to talk about the other measures the government's been taking, like the bilateral agreements. So, for example, the returns agreement that the Prime Minister signed with Albania, which has seen the number of people coming here from Albania massively, massively down over recent months. So it's not just a priority for the party, I think it's a priority for people, and the government is taking action and will continue to do so if we're re-elected on the 4th of July.
You mentioned the Rwanda scheme, and in the manifesto, Sunak has promised a regular rhythm of flights starting this July. Keir Starmer has pledged to scrap this policy if elected, calling it an expensive gimmick. Is he wrong?
Mm-hmm. I think he's absolutely wrong. I think he's absolutely wrong. I don't think it's I don't accept that characterisation of it. In fact, we've already seen recently from the comments that the Irish Taoiseach made that it is having a deterrent effect in terms of people coming here, which is exactly what it's intended to do. It's intended to deter people coming here, so it is working. The biggest issue I have with what Keir Starmer has said, though, is that he's saying he would scrap what the Conservatives are doing, but he hasn't actually put forward any alternative himself. This is a big issue. It's an issue actually that is impacting a lot of countries all across the world, and he hasn't put forward a plan for combating the problem.
Well, another party that whose campaign has revolved a lot about immigration is Reform, and YouGov's latest poll has put Reform ahead of the Tories for the first time. Labour has had a stronghold in Tower Hamlets for many years, but do you now see the rise of Reform as one of your biggest challenges?
No, I don't think it's one of the biggest challenges, because ultimately what I'm focusing on doing is highlighting those issues that I think are important for the people of Poplar and Limehouse: the reopening Limehouse police station, axing Sadiq Khan's tunnel tax, more and better housing. So whatever Reform is doing is not going to influence the conversations that I'm having with people on the doorstep or the campaigns that I'm pushing for. You refer to a poll. Well, it's just one poll. It's within the margin of error, as a lot of psephologists have already highlighted. So it is the point I would make here is that it is a fight between Labour and the Conservatives in Poplar and Limehouse. And actually, if you want to see change in Poplar and Limehouse, if you want to get away from the Labour Aspire status quo that has dominated for so many years, vote Conservative.
And finally, Freddie, just to wrap things up on a slightly more light-hearted note, which London sites would you take friends who are visiting London for the first time to, and why?
Oh, well, I absolutely love history, so the Tower of London, I think, would have to be one of the first places that I would take them. And then I love also the sort of the panoramic of the river in the background and Tower Bridge. So they're probably for an ice cream or a hot dog or something like that. Definitely, those would be my first two choices.
Great. Thank you, Freddie Downing, Conservative candidate for Poplar and Limehouse.